heart and soul of the game is at the Boxing Voice. Ain't no other sight in the game could see the Boxing Voice.
I thought it was a good fight. I let Amir know 2 months ago that this kid was real determined he was going to come to fight. He was. And as I watched him this week at the press conference, I made a point to let him know, while the other festivities and activities going on, that his mind was made up that he wanted to win and that he was going to discourage him, that he couldn't win. And I think that Algieri showed that tonight. I think he fought a very gallant fight, very determined, and Amir had to really settle in and buckle down to pull the victory out. I thought he counterpunched well. I'd like to see him do more inside work and close the distance more. He's still a pup, he's still relying on his lightning fast reflexes, but I think this was a good fight for him, as I told some of the press earlier this week that questioned the fight, that he had a lot of pressure on him because the Mayweather and Pacquiao questions just kept coming. And him being a polite kid, he's answered all these questions. So it's not easy to focus on the task at hand when you constantly get asked about plan B when you got to get past plan A. So I thought maybe that might have had a little effect on him. So I tried to do my best to keep him grounded, but it wasn't very easy because it wasn't no letter as far as those questions. Not only here, but in the writings and all of the articles and things like that. Who's next and this and that. And he's in line. So I thought, considering under the pressure that he was under, that it was a good mental fight for him. That mentally, he came to a tough situation.
Virgil back here. Straight back. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions. My first one is, it seemed early, second round, I think it was, Chris cracked Amir with a really, really good shot that sort of seemingly buckled Amir. Did you get any sense in the corner that he was hurt by that and that he needed a couple of rounds to kind of get himself together? And if so, what were you telling him to do early on to sort of bring himself back, how he had a dominant first round?
Well, by having Amir now for a couple of years, he can get hit with a punch sometimes, and sometimes when he'll take different steps and be on the move, it can really fool the eye. I think if you notice, whenever he was really hurt by a punch, either he went down, or I don't think we've ever seen him really buckle, except a Madonna punch, where it was obvious that he was hurt. But I think as long as he sees what's coming, that he can handle it, as he proved with the Madonna punch. Was probably one of the hardest punches he's taken, but he saw the punch. The other punches he never saw, but he showed that he had that resilience by getting up. I mean, not too many people would have took the Garcia punch, and got up, but he got up, and he was actually winning the round. He just went out and didn't think the next round, but if he would have, he'd have won that fight. So, I've learned from different fighters, if they get hit with a punch, Amir has such fast reflexes that you can hit him when he's starting a punch. So he can get caught off balance. But if he's hurt, what I've observed, he won't fight back. But immediately he came back with the right type of punches. So I'm not saying it didn't buzz. He might have asked him and he didn't complain about it. But he kept his head in the mouth of the cannon all night. So he didn't just sway. So I don't think I'll ask him.
Virgil, my second question for you is, you mentioned the pressure because all the questions about Floyd Mayweather. Seeing what you saw tonight, which ultimately was a fairly clear decision victory for Amir. Plan A, or number A, letter A is now over, and now the questions about Floyd will start again. Can you give me your perspective on the prospect in your mind of Amir matching up with Floyd Mayweather Jr.?
Well, you know, I've been honest with him when it comes to Floyd. That it's a fight that he's going to have to be real diligent about his preparation, and he's going to have to do what a young buck can do. He's going to have to fight over his head. You know, and any fighter, every fighter, when they have a youth and they just keep going in the game and they sort of get in a groove one night, it's like Buster Douglas, anybody, they could just take it to another level, youth-wise. But I've always been honest with him and said his IQ will never match Floyd Mayweather's IQ, because the years of repetition and day in and day out doing the same thing, his body just and mind just processes real quick. And that's the gift that he has. So you have to offset that with youth, just like we've seen in sports. You know, we can go all the way back to Villanova with Howard Porter. I mean, never was a good NBA player, but one night he lit up somebody in the championship game because he just played over his head. You know, and I think he has the attributes to take it to that level. And if he can lock in and prepare himself right for a fight of that magnitude and handle the pressure that comes along with it, I'm confident he'll give a good account of himself.
Virgil, you spoke about the questions, and obviously everyone's going to ask Mayweather-Pacquiao being the next option, but I'd like to ask about Keith Thurman. He's been very vocal as far as Khan's opponents and the way that Khan chooses his opponents. What would you think of a matchup between Khan and Keith Thurman, being as though that they have a common opponent in Julio Diaz, and now they'll have one with Luis Collazo once that fight happens?
Well, I think when you look at a scenario like that, styles make matches. And, you know, I know Keith is a very vocal young man and confident in his abilities. But if I have to be honest, you know, Keith has stepped up a little bit himself. You don't see the knockouts like you used to see them. You know, when you start going up in the A-leagues, they don't come as easy. And, you know, by the media saying Khan is chinny and this and that and that and the other, he's supposed to talk like that. But there's things I know about Keith Thurman that I won't say, that he better watch his chin too. So, I know him way back from the amateurs. I can tell you some things that shock you, but I'll leave it alone. Okay? But, you know, at some point, that fight's probably going to materialize. I think Keith has a right to follow a path to maximize his earning potential. And these kids have to be careful not to be brought so soon to a match because other people want to see it. And then the match is over, and now what? I mean, you have paths in that welterweight division that can be carved out, and you can make some real great fights. But the fighters really deserve to be compensated for a fight of that magnitude, and not just take it because somebody wants to see them fight. But I believe that that fight will materialize itself one day, and it's not going to be easy as Keith Thurman think it is.
Thank you, Virgil.
Okay, Chris is going to come in right now, and then Virgil's going to come back here after.
Okay, why?